who does not. Relatively, if stammering is easy to hide for you, which is why a lot of times we perceive ourselves as being mild. I have a mild stammering problem. Well, oftentimes it's mild because you're hiding it.
Yes.
Because so the idea of what is our identity is actually a very important question to kind of wrestle with, because we have a choice. We can self-identify as people who stammer, or we can lead a lot of our lives in the pretense that we don't, in passing as fluent. So that choice, making that choice, is oftentimes a fork in the road, because it's going to drive the behaviors accordingly. So if we identify as people who do not stammer, I stammer a little bit, but I stammer only on some situations, on some words, I can hide it very, very well. So I'm actually basically not a person who stammers. If I proceed on that assumption, then I'm going to continue to sort of engage in behaviors that support that identity concept, right? I might hide it, I might avoid, I might word substitute. There's a whole range of infinite ways in which we can avoid a situation. On the other hand, if we actually accept that we are people who stammer, if it becomes a part of our identity in a way that is at least emotionally neutral, it may not be emotionally positive yet, but at least it is emotionally neutral, then we have a whole lot of other choices that are available to us. Do I show the fact that I stammer? Do I reveal to somebody? Do I self-disclose? Do I voluntarily stammer or not? Am I open about it? Am I out of the closet? Am I not out of the closet? Then all of those choices become also available. So identity is a very valuable construct, and it's definitely a very complicated construct for anything that is variable nature, any condition that sometimes presents and sometimes that doesn't, and is easy to hide or can be hidden. But it's also a very important thing to wrestle with, because that is going to set the course of where we are going to go in our lives. So obviously TISA may, or certainly this is where the curriculum in TISA intersects very heavily with what we do in speech therapy as well. There is a general tendency to want to advise the person to not hide it. Consider it part of your identity. Just like I'm a Punjabi, just like I'm a judge, I speak Hindi, I'm a speaker of Hindi, I understand a bit of Punjabi, just like I play the role of a husband, just like I'm a speech pathologist, I'm also a person who stammers. It's not a big deal, right? So you embrace it as part of your identity among many things that you are, then it takes on a different value. So that's all I got to say right now, but I want to hear from what everybody else has to say.
I'll briefly sort of translate this idea into Hindi. कि अगर हम अपनी पहचान इस चीज पे बेस करते हैं कि आई एम ए माइल्ड स्टैमरर, तो उसकी वजह से फिर क्या होता है कि हम वो स्टैमरिंग को माइल्ड दिखाने या बनाए रखने के लिए जो कुछ भी करते हैं वो चीजें हम करते हैं. शब्दों को बदलना, क्लास में सवाल पूछने का मन है मगर सवाल हाथ खड़ा ना करना, ना पूछना, अवॉइडेंस बिहेवियर, चेंजिंग द वर्ड्स, वो सब चीजें हम करते हैं क्योंकि हमारे लिए बीइंग एंड अपीयरिंग ए माइल्ड स्टैमरर इज द एसेंस ऑफ आवर आइडेंटिटी. उसको हमने अपनी आइडेंटिटी बना दी है. इसके उलट, अपोज टू दिस, अगर हमारी आइडेंटिटी ये हो कि आई एम ए करेजियस पर्सन और आई एम ए ऑथेंटिक पर्सन, नो वे एम आई गोइंग टू change my words or speak a lie. No way am I going to be ashamed of who I am. तो अगर ये हमारी आइडेंटिटी है तो हम शब्दों को बदलेंगे नहीं, भले हम थोड़ा हकला लेंगे, क्लास में हाथ भी खड़ा करेंगे, सवाल भी पूछेंगे. तो मोटा मोटा मतलब ये है कि जिस चीज को हम ज्यादा तरजीह देते हैं, ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस देते हैं, ज्यादा वैल्यू देते हैं, यानी जिसको हम अपना एसेंशियल क्वालिटी मानते हैं, अपनी आइडेंटिटी मानते हैं, वो डिसाइड करती है कि हम स्टैमरिंग को लेकर आगे कैसे बढ़ेंगे, स्टैमरिंग को हम अपने लिए कितनी बड़ी मुसीबत मानेंगे या एक छोटी सी बात मानेंगे और उसके जो कुछ जरूरी है वो करेंगे. तो इसीलिए तीसरा में हम लोग बहुत ज्यादा इस बात पर जोर देते हैं कि बिफोर यू कैन learn and practice any technique, you must accept the fact that okay, you stammer sometime. You must accept that stammering is a problem for you. You must accept that stammering is occupying your mind all the time. Even when you're not talking about it, you are worried about it. You are Googling about it day in and day out. You're spending a lot of time. Accept that fact and then start working on techniques. So यही बात डॉक्टर अमित बजाज भी कह रहे हैं कि आइडेंटिटी जो है वो कुछ हद तक ये तय करती है कि हम स्टैमरिंग के प्रति कैसे रिएक्ट करेंगे। और ध्रुव ने एक बड़ा अच्छा सवाल पूछा जो मैं सबको शेयर किया है कि अगर समाज ना होता तो तब हम क्या हैं, तब हम कौन हैं, तब हम क्या बनना चाहेंगे, तब हमारी पहचान क्या होगी। ये भी एक महत्वपूर्ण सवाल है कि जैसे विनायक ने बोला था कि अभी तो मेरी ये पहचान है, लेकिन एक दिन मैं ऐसा कुछ करना चाहता हूँ कि दुनिया बोले कि भाई हकलाने के बावजूद भी विनायक ने ये हासिल किया है। विनायक हैज टू बी टेकन सीरियसली बिकॉज ही हैज अचीव्ड दिस मच इन स्पाइट ऑफ स्टैमरिंग और व्हाटएवर। तो उनकी जो समझ है कि मेरी फ्यूचर आइडेंटिटी आज से बेहतर होगी क्योंकि तब दुनिया कन्विंस हो जाएगी कि मैंने कुछ हासिल किया है। तो उसको हम इस रूप में भी सवाल पूछें कि अगर दुनिया हो ही ना तो तब हमें किसको कन्विंस करना है, और जिसको कन्विंस करना है क्या वो आज कन्विंस नहीं हो सकता है? क्या हम आई मीन विल आई रेस्पेक्ट माई सेल्फ ओनली व्हेन आई हैव अचीव्ड ए MBA, not now when I've not done an MBA? I mean, why do we have to wait for future moment before we start respecting ourselves? Why do we have to become fluent before we start respecting ourselves as a human being? तो ये भी एक सवाल है। तो ध्रुव ने बड़ा अच्छा सवाल पूछा है ये। मैं ध्रुव को इनवाइट करना चाहूंगा कि वो थोड़ा बताएं इस बारे में। ध्रुव, व्हाट इज योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग? And just to put everything in frame, he is very much into Buddhist studies. where everything is emptiness.
No.
Where everything is emptiness.
No.
Over to Dhruv. Yes.
I think about it, but the Buddhist studies will need to like talk to Dipom because he's an actual monk. I'm a pretend monk. I want to be a monk. Yeah, like I feel like lots of the like labels we give ourselves is based on society. I'm a stammerer, but if there was no society, then there would be no such thing as stammering, right? I'm this role, I am student, I'm this and this, but it's all based on society. So if we remove that, it comes to the question of who are you? Like who do you feel you are if nothing else existed? But of course, this is not reality. We have to accept कि हम समाज में रहते हैं, और एक also बहुत ही interesting African concept है Ubuntu, जो कहता है कि मैं हूँ क्योंकि आप है. I am because you are. And I think that's also, comes back to the same thing that हम define करते हैं कि हम कौन है based on society, based on our interactions with other people. So I think it's just the philosophical fun, I think, but it can also, I think, help us become less afraid. Like for me to say, okay, if society doesn't exist, who am I? I can be anything. So it makes me feel more free. Yeah.
Thank you, Dhruv. I think we should ask Deepam this question. Deepam, आपसे हम सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं कि अगर दुनिया ना होती, समाज ना होता, आप अकेले हैं, क्या तब भी आप अपने आप को एक PWS मानेंगे? क्या तब भी आप अपने आप को एक हकलाने वाला व्यक्ति समझेंगे, मानेंगे?
सर एक्चुअली मैं जो है थोड़ा डिलेमा में हूँ सर। एक्चुअली मैं एग्जैक्टली बता नहीं पा रहा, लेकिन मेरा लेकिन फिर भी बताता हूँ सर। अगर अगर कोई मतलब समाज ही नहीं होगा तो खुद को तो मतलब आई मीन अगर अगर मैं स्टेमर करूंगा तो डेफिनेटली मानूंगा सर। दैट्स द आंसर।
अगर आप स्टैमर करेंगे तो आप अपने आप को स्टैमरर मानेंगे, चाहे दुनिया हो या ना हो, है ना?
राइट सर।
ठीक है,
यस।
ठीक है, ठीक है। Okay, okay, Divam, thank you so much. Now let me invite Abhishek also. Abhishek also is a seeker and a part-time philosopher. Abhishek.
Yes, sir. I think the question is that if there is no world, then would I consider myself as a PWS or not?
Yes.
है ना?
Yes.
Yes, I would like to say that yes, as the Deepam has told just now, that if I find myself stammering on some words, then I would like to believe that I am a person who stammers. So I would be like that, sir.
But Abhishek, question is this: कि when there is no society, then who gives us such labels that this is stammering, this is normal, this is not normal? Where do we learn all this from?
I came to learn about stammering from some of my friends who used to make fun of my speech. And when I was a small child of 6-7 years old, and I also came to learn about the shame and feeling of shame about being a stammerer when I saw Hindi films. So these two things made me realize that I am someone who is lesser than others by seeing the Hindi films where the person who stammers is made fun of, and also from some of my friends when I was when I was just 6-7 years old. So I came to know that I am not same like others, and I have a stammering issue which is not taken very heartily by society. This is
तो अभिषेक, ध्रुव का सवाल यही है कि अगर समाज ना होता, यानी आपके ऐसे फ्रेंड्स ना होते, ऐसी मूवीज ना होती, ये सब कुछ भी ना होता, तो आपको शायद इस बात का एहसास भी नहीं होता कि मैं अभी जो कर रहा हूँ ये हकलाना है।
हाँ,
है ना?
अगर मैं किसी से बात करता
हाँ।
और उसको इस बात से फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है कि मैं रुक रुक के बोल रहा हूँ या फिर धारा प्रवाह बोल रहा हूँ, तो फिर मुझे भी इस बात से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, और शायद मुझे ये पता भी नहीं होता है कि मैं स्टैमर करता हूँ।
हाँ, यही बात ध्रुव कहना चाहते हैं कि स्टैमरिंग इज ए सोशल कंस्ट्रक्शन। सोशल इंटरेक्शंस कंस्ट्रक्ट करते हैं उसको और उसको एक नाम दे देते हैं। मगर मैं समझ रहा हूँ कि दिस इज ए रादर difficult concept. I think we should go back to Dr. Amit Bajaj. He can tell us about what does stammering represent to a child of 2 year, 3 year. छोटा बच्चा जब हकलाता है, उसका हकलाना और बड़े लोगों का हकलाना किस मायने में फर्क है?
So from an age or developmental standpoint, there are many differences obviously कि जो भी हकलाहट है जो बच्चों में होती है वो सोसाइटी में ज्यादा एक्सेप्टेबल होती है, relative to same level of haklahat in somebody who's older, right? You expect children to have a different speech profile. You expect them to be in a learning phase. You expect that, like, just like children will fall when they're learning to walk or learning to run, they will also fall. They will also stumble when they're learning to talk. So to a great extent, the social stigma that is directed at adults is not directed at children as much, because there is an expectation of certain level of either stammering or basically whatever is going on in that developmental phase that children are in. At the same time, the actual speech motor behavior, the actual behavior itself, the actual stammering itself is also not very complicated in children, because the idea is because they have not reacted to it. There isn't a lot of reactive component that gets into the actual moment of stammering itself, right? So they're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to avoid. They cannot change words because they don't have the vocabulary. So there isn't a lot of the avoidance behavior that is there in children as well. So that's the other thing, right? So there isn't a lot of avoidance behavior in children because, again, tying into what we are saying about environmental expectations. So social expectations are different for children than they are for adults. Third difference between children and adults is that, and it would be lovely if you can translate this into Hindi because I don't have the Hindi word for it. Like in the notion of how good we are at something, it's a notion of self-efficacy.
Right.
ये काफी research हुई है developmental psychology में यहाँ पे on the notion of self-efficacy, how good we think we are at something. And there is generally a kind of a curve that goes like this. So at the beginning of life, like when we are little children, we have very high notions of self-efficacy. A 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or even a 4 or 5-year-old may not be the best singer in the world, but they think they are the best. They may not be the best player in the world to kick a soccer ball, but they think they are the best. So that notion, that idea about how good we are at something that children innately have from a developmental standpoint, we innately have that because it allows us to learn a lot of things very quickly without feeling failure, without feeling that a setback is failure. So this is like nature's way of allowing us to learn very quickly in a very short period of time. And it also has a very inoculating effect on the negativity that we feel when we are disfluent, when we stammer, and all of the negativity that we feel. Children don't feel that because innately, biologically, developmentally, psychologically, they have a high notion of self-efficacy. तो children का जो stammering experience है, वो काफी different है adults में, क्योंकि they have not been stammering for a long time. The behavior is not that complicated. They don't get a lot of negativity from society because there is developmental expectation that you are going to stumble over your words. Ruk ruk ke baat karna is something that all children will do at some point or the other. And they're inoculated from the fear and the negativity and the anxiety because of the developmental phase that they are in. So the way we manage the stammering in children is also very different than the way we manage it, because it follows or it is in accordance with all these principles. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I thought your question was, how do children interpret the stammering experience differently compared to adults? So it's very much not part of their identity at that point, bringing it back to the conversation that we are having right now. Stammering is not a big part of most children's identity at that point because of all these reasons. But as we stammer more and more, face more and more negative consequences, face a lot of negativity as a result of it, try to hide it, the behavior gets complicated, then of course the whole experience will shift.
So actually मैं ये सारी बातें इसलिए कर रहा था क्योंकि ये बात हो रही थी. हाँ, Dhruv wanted to say something. I just want to summarize a couple of things very quickly in Hindi. कि हम लोग ये बात कर रहे थे कि हकलाना अपने आप में कितना बड़ा ऑब्जेक्टिव ट्रूथ है, इस बात को समझने जानने के लिए ध्रुव ने सवाल पूछा कि अगर दुनिया ना होती, हम अकेले होते, तो तब भी क्या हम अपने हकलाने को हकलाना कहते? तो जाहिर बात है कि जवाब तब है नहीं। क्योंकि दुनिया ही डिफाइन कर रही है हमारे लिए कि व्हाट इज एबनॉर्मल बिहेवियर, व्हाट इज नॉर्मल बिहेवियर, व्हाट इज एक्सपेक्टेड, व्हाट इज अनएक्सपेक्टेड। और इसलिए फिर हम लोग ने अब ये इस बात में पहुंच गए वहां से कि छोटे बच्चे का हकलाना represents something like a golden age of stammering. It is something like a golden age of stammering, where child is stammering effortlessly. मतलब अभी जैसे डॉक्टर अमित ने बताया कि बच्चा बहुत स्ट्रगल नहीं कर रहा है, जेंटल ऑनसेट वो अपने आप कर रहा है, जो एडल्ट को सीखना पड़ता है। एडल्ट को सीखना पड़ता है कि हाउ टू एफर्टलेसली बाउंस ऑन कपल ऑफ वर्ड्स एंड देन से। बट बच्चे का हकलाना जो है वो वैसा ही है, एफर्टलेस है, जो हम थेरेपी में एडल्ट को सिखाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। और तो कहीं पे मुझे लगता है कि इस बात को हम कहीं पे इस बात का संज्ञान लें कि अगर दुनिया ना होती तो हकलाना क्या होता। ये बात समझने के लिए हम बच्चे का हकलाना देख लें कि बच्चा कैसे हकला रहा है और क्या हो रहा है। और मुझे ये भी कहीं पे ख्याल आ रहा है कि कहीं पे लोग ये भी कहते हैं कि फॉर एडल्ट स्पीच थेरेपी, one of the unstated goal is to help a adult to stammer the way a child stammers. And stammering like a child is a kind of a midway home. It's a kind of stepping stone for adult therapy. Am I right, Dr. Amit?
Yeah, generally the idea is to make the stammering experience less tense,
Yes.
to make the speech more forward moving. So to the extent that children will do bouncing, they might stutter on some words, some gentle repetitions like this without a lot of effort, without trying to force the word out. These are things that are very commonly taught. So to the extent that that is the profile in children, yes, into a certain extent, we're simulating that in children. So that is true. But even the idea that, we make mistakes when we talk, but we just sort of pick ourselves up and we learn from our mistakes and we sort of move on. In the same way, normalizing the stammering experience that we might do for a child, we try to do for an adult as well. So there are parallels. There are big differences. Obviously, I don't want to say that what we do with adults therapy is the same as we do with children. Is completely different.
Yes.
But the bigger distillation or the salient point is basically this, that the behavior is much more simple. In children, it's much more simple. So we want to get back to a simple type of behavior, not hiding the stammer. And when we also stammering in a relatively effortless way, teaching the person to stammer in a relatively effortless way. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Over to Dhruv. Dhruv, you were asking some question. Please go on.
Amit ji was just talking about like how as children we have a very strong self-efficacy. We think we can do anything, and we're kind of inoculated. I think you use the word like we have a vaccine saying we can do anything. So I'm just thinking, like, I kind of feel like society then beats us down. Says, no, you can't do this, you stammer, you are like this, you're not normal. So yeah, like if we can remember that we have this innate self-efficacy, and then we can keep inoculating ourselves with gratitude, with TISA meetings, with what are those called again? I'm forgetting. The like validations, or like positive reframing. Then we can like have that feeling of self-efficacy, and I can do anything again. Like you're saying, courageous attitude. If we can have that in the classroom, be courageous and fearless, and truthful, then if we're stammering or not, it's okay.
Thank you, Dhruv. Thank you so much. So I think, as I said earlier, that that childhood stammering is like the golden age of stammering, where we are not concerned about what the world thinks. And as Dr. Amit said, that when we were children, we were so full of ourselves. We were so sure, we were so full of confidence that we will rattle off poem while stammering, and still we will think that we have done a great job. So, but then we grow up, and then we become vulnerable to what people are saying and reacting, and we start absorbing and internalizing a lot of that negativity. And then when we have internalized it, then we are carrying that critic inside our own head, which keeps on saying to us, no, you didn't say that word properly. Oh my God, how can you do this? How can you stammer now? You are meeting this girl for the first time. And see, you went and stammered on your name, of all things. So that critic is, I mean, we have hired that critic, full time, and we have given him a place in our own head, corner office here. So the thing is, I think for our identity, it's important that we realize that while child did not have that identity of a stammerer, we have, and that is an undeniable fact. And denying that fact would push us on the path of, path which goes away from authenticity. So in order to be authentic person, we have to be okay with saying that, okay, I'm a stammerer. But as everybody has said that their identity is evolving, we can also say that, yes, I'm a stammerer, but very soon I'll be working on it, and I will be dealing with it squarely, and I'll become a good communicator. So in other words, stammering has to be accepted, and then we have to evolve out of that concept that I'm no more a helpless stammerer, but I'm working on it, I'm accepting it, I'm talking about it, and I'm helping other people also. So, now let me invite other people. Dr. Amit, do you want to say something more on this? That when stammering becomes a part of identity, then how does it evolve? Or what
Yeah, I
can we
just want to
do
go back to the word inoculation. I think inoculation is a nice word to use because it's medical terminology here that we're using in a very approximate kind of a way. But the point here is that when we self-disclose, जब हम किसी को बताते हैं कि हम हकलाते हैं, जब हम voluntarily हकलाते हैं, that is a kind of inoculation. That is a way of inoculating yourself against the negativity, right? So children are not really concerned about how they are being perceived, because that social awareness, that social consciousness, social cognition has not sort of developed to that point. Our social cognition has developed way beyond that. We have got a lot of experiences, some positive, some neutral, a lot of negative. So because of that, our social consciousness has really evolved quite a bit. So we have to force the inoculation. In children are naturally inoculated, we have to force the inoculation. And forcing the inoculation is things like self-disclosure, voluntary stammering, not engaging in avoidance behavior, recognizing that avoidance behavior is actually a very natural body response. It's a very natural response to avoid something that is going to give you pain, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain or whatever. So there's nothing unnatural about any avoidance behavior. Whether we stammer or not, we all have avoidance behavior as something or the other. And it's the body's way to protect oneself. The problem is these protective behaviors, these safety behaviors have come at a cost. So I don't want to put avoidance behavior in the category of good and bad. I want to put avoidance behavior in the category of a choice that has consequences, right? So, if you avoid a lot, if you're not inoculated, if you don't self-inoculate, if you don't self-advocate, and nobody is advocating on your behalf, then obviously your body is going to rely on the procedural memory of whatever has been protective in the past. It's going to be a go-to response, whether it's the stammer or is hiding the stammer. It becomes such an automatic behavior that we don't even think about it. So inoculation has to be administered, self-administered as an adult. It comes naturally part of the package when you're a child. So that's the only point I wanted to add around inoculation.
And I would just like to add one thing to this, that then of course I'll invite everyone else to talk about how did they inoculate themselves. So I just want to say one thing about in 2008, when I began talking about stammering publicly by writing a public blog and talking to people, I felt so liberated, because until then I also was a very frightened and shy and private person. But once I began talking about my stammering on my blog, and the blog itself was called haklanablogspot.com. I felt so liberated, I felt so courageous, and that it began changing my identity in my own eyes. I began feeling I'm an authentic person, so why should I hide about my lifestyle and my live-in relationship, and why should I hide about Marion? So then I began talking about Marion also. So then the whole that whole thing began changing. I mean, at that time I felt that my life is unraveling, and I was worried that what is this happening to me? Why am I talking about all this? How will some people will not take me seriously. I will not get any work from them. But then gradually things began change. So my identity changed with these inoculations, with these, these kind of little experiments. And so today my identity is, I feel that I have got a lot of courage. I can do pretty mad things if I make up my mind to do. And so that is how my personality, my identity changed from the childhood, now at 64, 65. So let me invite other people also. So now, so far we have discussed that identity changes with the conscious steps which you take in day-to-day life. It could be like telling your colleague that I sometimes stammer, or talking to your girlfriend about your stammering, and that would change your identity. So I want to, and this is what Amit and Dhruv also has phrased as self-administered inoculation. You're inoculating yourself against negativity of stammering. So does anyone want to talk about how their identity has changed in last couple of years because of certain actions which they took, because the certain branch in the road which they took? Less traveled
Yes,
route?
sir. Sir, so past two, two, uh, two, 2 years, I used to hide it, and and uh, and in my class, I have different identity of a person who is cool, and who cracks and who cracks jokes. In those times, I used to be fearful, because whenever there is going any talk, or I feel that I have to speak. I have to speak. So in those times, I used to be a lot of scared. I used to be scared a lot. Uh, it is only because I had different different identity in front of my all friends. So that is why I skipped a lot of presentations and all talks. But
Okay, Aman.
after
Aman, मैं आपके पास वापस आता हूँ, ठीक है? मैं आपके पास वापस
Yes.
आता हूँ. Let me get a quick feedback from other people, and Dr. Amit has to leave at 8:30. It's already 8:35. So before he has to leave, I would like to give him some more time to share some more thoughts. Do you have any more thoughts to share on this, Dr. Amit, or anything?
No, I can actually stay till for the next 20 minutes or so. So if you want to go
Okay.
with somebody else, we can also
Okay.
just.
So I just want to get a little feedback from Suraj also, because Suraj is here and he has not spoken at all. Suraj, you heard the discussion. Please tell us what is your identity and has it changed in last couple of years? And if it has changed, how did it change? What did you do or what did happen? Over to Suraj.
मेरी आवाज am I
आ रही है,
audible?
हाँ. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay sir, as a I think हर एज की जैसे जैसे एज होती है उसकी आइडेंटिटी चेंज होती है. फर्स्ट एज ए सन, देन एज ए हस्बैंड, देन एज ए फादर.
Yeah, no,
Then
he's become a father in last 1 year. How old was your baby?
11 months sir.
तो 11 महीने में आपकी आइडेंटिटी बदली है परसेप्टिबली? आपको लगता है कि आई एम ए फादर नाउ, आई शुड नॉट बिहेव लाइक दिस और आई शुड बिहेव लाइक दिस, ऐसा लग रहा है आपको?
हाँ सर, बिकॉज डॉटर का फादर होना बिल्कुल अलग है और सन का फादर होना बिल्कुल अलग है. आई हैव रियलाइज इन कपल ऑफ मंथ. यस, देयर इज वो दोनों परसेप्शन में भी काफी चेंजेस हैं.
हाँ.
तो यस, टाइम के साथ अपनी आइडेंटिटी चेंज होती है. एंड एक दो थॉट्स मैं कहना चाहूँगा अबाउट सोसाइटी कि यस, एक्चुअली सोसाइटी हमें देती है आइडेंटिटी, बट इट्स वेरी आई थिंक हार्श और cruel way in which society recognizes someone. Like अगर कोई सक्सेसफुल है तो ही उसे वो ये सोसाइटी पहचानती है, या कोई उसे कोई जानता है, पहचानता है, या फिर उसे आइडेंटिटी देती है. अगर कोई कुछ कर रहा है या किसी ने कोई अचीव कर लिया तो, लेकिन ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है जो मन से अच्छा है या कोई अच्छा व्यक्ति है तो उसे एक्चुअली सोसाइटी देखती भी नहीं है. तो आई थिंक इट्स वेरी हार्श. क्यों ऐसा? आई फील लाइक बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग हैं जो बहुत अच्छे हैं लेकिन उन्हें कोई भी पहचानता नहीं है, या उनके बारे में कोई बात नहीं होती है, कोई आर्टिकल नहीं आता है न्यूज़ पेपर में. तो इट्स अ वेरी हार्श वे.
इस
ओनली
बात
कोई
बात
भी
पे
लाइफ में कोई भी अचीव करता है तो
हाँ.
उसे ही पहचानती है. क्योंकि बहुत सारों की ऐसी अनफॉर्चुनेट भी लोग होते होंगे जो काफी मेहनत करते होंगे और वो सक्सेसफुल नहीं होते होंगे, लेकिन वो मन से बहुत अच्छे होते होंगे. तो लेकिन सोसाइटी दे नेग्लेक्ट देम और उन्हें
अच्छा,
बॉटम
एक बात सूरज, एक बात बताइए, हकलाने को लेके 3 साल पहले, 4 साल पहले जो आपकी आत्म छवि थी, अपनी पहचान थी मन में, उसमें कुछ बदलाव आया है क्या पिछले 3-4 सालों में?
यस सर, यस सर. बिल्कुल बहुत सारे आए बदलाव. पहले मैं सोचता था, मैं हकलाता था तो मैं सोचता था मैं डाउन हूँ, मैं वीक हूँ, मैं कमजोर हूँ, ऐसा आई यूज्ड टू फील. लेकिन अभी मैं हकलाता हूँ तो वो फीलिंग्स कुछ भी नहीं है. आई फील कि मैं थोड़ा अलग हूँ, बट मैं काबिल हूँ. आई कैन डू एनीथिंग, आई कैन अचीव एनीथिंग. तो वो कॉन्फिडेंट सर आया है.
थैंक यू सूरज, एकदम सही
थैंक यू
कहा
सर.
आपने. एक्चुअली हमारी आइडेंटिटी जो है वो इन तमाम चीजों को साथ लेकर बनती है. हम जो काम करते हैं, हम जो सोचते हैं, दुनिया हमारे साथ जो करती है, वो सब चीजें, उन सबका एक मिला जुला समावेश हमारी आइडेंटिटी को बनाता है. तो डेफिनेटली आज अगर आपकी आइडेंटिटी फर्क है तो उसमें ये सारी चीजें कहीं ना कहीं पर अपना रोल प्ले कर रही हैं कि यू वॉलंटियर्ड विथ तीसा फॉर ए वेरी इंटेंसली, very deeply. You were coordinating TOPG one after another. TOPG को आप coordinate कर रहे थे. अभी फिर आप पिता बने हैं. So becoming a father, becoming a volunteer, associating with TISA, all these things are shaping your identity. लोग कहते हैं कि social identity में जो है being member of a group, sometimes that deeply influences your social identity. So many people have told me that after joining TISA, I'm feeling more powerful. And that is totally understandable because social identity depends on social groups. So if you are a North American, you feel more powerful if you're in North America. If you're a Jat and if you're in Haryana, you'll feel more powerful. है कि नहीं? So sometimes ये सारी चीजें मिलजुल कर हमारी आइडेंटिटी क्रिएट करते हैं. So thank you so much. Now let me quickly go to Abhishek. Abhishek, how has your identity changed in last couple of years, and what has contributed to that? कैसे बदली आपकी आइडेंटिटी पिछले 3, 4, 5 सालों में?
Identity has changed quite a lot. Actually, since the time I joined TISA, I came across TISA. From that time till now, it has changed a lot. And I am a part of TISA also. This also helps me to feel that I can have a support from TISA. And also when I came across all the concepts of TISA, of self-worth and acceptance and all, since that time I have been trying to be open with my speech, and I try to speak more to others, and I don't try to hide that I stammer, and this has helped me a lot. And every one in my work life and also my personal life, all of them know now that I stammer, and this has helped me a lot to live more at peace with myself.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you so much. Let me invite Deepika now. Deepika, have you studied your own evolution in last 3, 4, 5 years? When you were in Muscat, then you came to India, then now you're in Dubai. So your identity, has it evolved? And what has contributed to this evolution?
Okay, so, sir, actually, evolution happens when we start taking action. From the time I'm doing certain things, uh, I have begun to become a better evolved person. Sir, I became a yoga instructor, and then I also started working with TISA. So it has helped me to grow.
Thank you, Deepika. I think
Yes,
Deepika
sir.
has brought out a very important thing, that identity changes through action, not by being a good person. जैसे सूरज ने भी बोला था कि there are many people who are very good but they don't get anything from society. तो मुझे एक लाइन याद आ रही थी एक पोएट्री की कि कुछ किए बगैर जय जयकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती। तो कुछ किए बगैर जय जयकार, मतलब ये कि कुछ तो हमें करना पड़ेगा। हो सकता है उसके बावजूद भी समाज आपको रिकॉग्निशन ना दे, मगर अगर आप कुछ करते हैं तो कम से कम आपकी आइडेंटिटी चेंज होती है अपनी निगाहों में। अपनी निगाहों में यू बिकम मोर सेल्फ एफिकेशियस, मोर इफेक्टिव। क्योंकि कई बार ऐसा होता है कि हमारे दिल में बड़े अच्छे अच्छे इरादे हैं, मगर हम एक्शन नहीं ले रहे हैं। जाहिर बात है कि हमारी आइडेंटिटी नहीं बदलेगी, हमें कुछ हासिल नहीं होगा। किसी ने कहा भी है कि द रोड टू हेल इज पेव्ड विद गुड इंटेंशंस, नेक इरादे मगर कभी इंप्लीमेंट नहीं किए, सीधे कहाँ पहुंचोगे? नर्क में। सॉरी फॉर गोइंग ऑफ द रोड एंड तो अमित, डॉक्टर अमित, आप थोड़ा सा अब सोच के बताइएगा जरा कि हकलाने वालों के लिए फिर क्या आइडेंटिटी को इम्प्रूव करने का या आइडेंटिटी को बदलने का कॉन्शियसली क्या तरीके हो सकते हैं, अगर उनकी आइडेंटिटी का एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट हकलाना है।
तरीके तो वही हैं जो हम सब जानते हैं अपने आप को। we have to put ourselves out there, we have to do something that is different from body's native response, is my answer to this. We have developed a native response in the body कि हम जब हकलाएंगे तो हम we will push our words out, we will put a lot of effort. That's the response of the body. We will hide our stammering. That is the response of the body. So we have to recognize that this is not a conscious process. This is not even it's not even a willful process. This is an automatic process. Or automatic process ये ऐसा है that it has become such an ingrained behavior that it's become the native response, what we call the native response. तो उस native response को counteract करने के लिए हमको practice is the only thing, whether it's acceptance practice, whether it's speech practice, should we want to do it, whatever the practice is, the behavior जो जैसे कि Deepika ne bataya, yeah, people have said here that it's the action that changes the identity, but recognizing very well that action will be needed, consistent action will be needed, continuous action will be needed to change the body's native response and to make it respond in a different kind of way. We'll get there because the brain is also very neuroplastic. Whatever we do over time rewires the brain. So we can trust that the process will work, but we got to do it in a way that makes us feel confident and makes us feel a bit more comfortable. Yeah. So that's a roundabout way of saying that action is needed and continuous action is needed. Small shots of practice on a daily basis, closed-ended practice, whether it's speech practice or whether it is acceptance practice or whatever it is needed, because what we are doing is fundamentally shifting the body's native response. I think once we get that point, then we also adjust our expectations accordingly, right? Not every encounter of using your technique is going to be useful. Not every encounter in which you're going to self-disclose is going to be met with a positive reaction. Not every reaction, not every encounter you have is going to be successful, but it is the right path to take, because what you're doing is you're changing the body's native response, whether the native response is above the iceberg or the native response is below the iceberg. And basically what you're doing in the process, whether it's an acceptance practice like voluntary stammering, or another acceptance practice like self-disclosure, or it is speech practice like bouncing or prolongation or whatever we are doing here, we are lowering the level of interference that stammering has in our lives. We can lower that level of interference by feeling differently about it. We can lower the level of interference by managing our speech a little bit differently, should we want to go there. But these are just ways of lowering the interference. But lowering the interference is going to be a task that is going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of time for a lot of us because it's contrary to the body's native response that we've developed over time.
Thank you so much. one of the words which caught my attention used by Dr. Amit was enduring process. Why enduring is important? Because one of the definition of identity is identity is a stable sense of self which is stable, not like your performance. My performance on a for anything can go up and down. So today I'm a very good cook, I was able to turn a very good omelette, but tomorrow I may make a mess and I may burn my khichdi. So performance can change on day-to-day basis, but your sense of self doesn't change. And that is what your identity is. So another definition about it, it's a enduring continuous sense of who you are. That is what your identity is. And because it is an enduring sense, you have to, if you want to change it, you have to work in through an enduring process. I mean, you cannot change an enduring sense. You can change an enduring process by doing certain things once in a while, once in a week, or doing it for 1 week and then stopping it for 1 month. So it has to be a continuous process. And just to make everything complete, I'm sharing a definition of identity in the chat as a 3-4 lines of a text. So which we can, which we can discuss and look at it. So I'm reading it out for everyone. I hope everyone has received it now. Identity encompasses the memories, experiences, relationships, and values that create one's sense of self, one's enduring sense of self, let us say. This amalgamation, this putting together of all this creates a steady sense of who one is over time, even as new facets are developed and incorporated into one's identity. Like Suraj 1 year ago became a father. Abhishek has become about a year ago, 2 years ago, a father. So that also is being added to this pot of khichdi. So in other words, our identity is not something unchanging, but it is changing and evolving, but maintains its course over a long period of time, and it is benefited by everything which you do or everything which happens to you. If you are a stammerer and then you start facilitating a self-help group, your identity has changed, because before you were thinking, I am a helpless stammerer. When I am stuck, then I'm totally helpless. But now you are facilitating a self-help group where you are teaching other people some technique. So now you are more in control. Now you say, I am a stammerer who is helping other people. It may or may not change your speech, but it certainly changes your identity. In your own eyes, you are a little bit, elevated and a little bit more empowered. Then suppose you do something more. So this is how your identity keeps on changing through action. As Deepika said, action is very important. If you take actions, then your identity will change. And as Dr. Amit said, it has to be an enduring process, because self itself is an enduring sense of yourself, identity. So that's all I wanted to add from my side. So now, if anybody wants to ask any questions or say something, but it has to be people who have done their homework. So let me invite now Deepam. Deepam, do you want to add something from the Buddhist studies? If you want to add some insights to what is identity? What does Buddha say about identity? Who are we actually? People like us here. Who are we?
एक्चुअली सर उनका यही कहना है कि सब कुछ इम्परमानेंट, देयर इज नो सेल्फ, देयर इज नो मैटर, उनका वही कहना है सर. तो उनका कहना है कि रिसर्च द बॉडी एंड द माइंड and try to come out of craving, aversion, ignorance, uproot defilements. उनका यही कहना है.
Right, good. So all this which is impermanent, compared to what? I mean, everything is impermanent, but in comparison to something which is permanent.
सर एक्चुअली जितना मुझे पता चला है,
हाँ,
मतलब उनका ऐसा कहना है कि अ, जा 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 जब जब बॉडी और माइंड को रिसर्च करेंगे, करना पूरा हो जाएगा, सब कुछ जान जाएंगे कि इसके कारण ऐसा होता है, मन में ऐसा हो रहा है, इसके कारण बॉडी ऐसे रिएक्ट कर रहा है। उसके बाद मतलब जब सारे डिफाइलमेंट निकल जाएंगे तो एक ऐसी स्थिति है जो
Yes.
परमानेंट है। वो तो मुझे पता नहीं सर, क्योंकि अनुभव तो हुआ नहीं अभी तक।
अच्छा।
तो उनका कहना है कि इसके परे एक ऐसा चीज है, ऐसा अवस्था है जो
हाँ।
परमानेंट है, जिसको नी 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 निब्बान अवस्था कहा गया है।
Okay, okay,
हाँ।
okay. So next time when you come to hang out, you have to tell us what is the relationship between that permanent state and us, human beings. I mean,
But yes,
like you or me or Dhruv, what is our relationship with that permanent state which is called nirvana? I mean, are
so
we
you know,
inside nirvana, or do we ever achieve that state? Are we part of that state, or are we outside that state, or is that state inside us? So you can think about this and then answer us in the next hangout, that what is nirvana and who are we? What is the relationship?
sir, you know, that state has to be experienced. Only after experiencing, someone can, put on words.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is a very difficult question you have asked right now, sir.
No, I totally understand. I understand your answer, because I also say to people, when people ask me about bouncing, I say, first experience it. First put it in your mouth and do a little bouncing. Then come back and ask questions. So it's totally understandable.
मैं बोल सकता हूँ।
Thank you, Deepam. Thank you, Deepam. Thank you. I was just having a little fun with you, asking questions and. Okay, so
Welcome, sir.
does anyone have any question before we wind up?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, बोलिए, कौन बोलना चाहता है? नाम बताइए अपना पहले।
सर, मेरा नाम हितेश शर्मा है। मैं
हाँ।
इंदौर मध्य प्रदेश से बोल रहा हूँ।
अच्छा, तो हितेश, आपने आज का होमवर्क पढ़ा था कि आज हमने क्या पूछा था करने के लिए हैंगआउट में आने से पहले?
नहीं सर, मुझे थोड़ी देर पहले किसी से ये लिंक मिला है। मैंने जस्ट अभी 15-20 मिनट पहले डाउनलोड किया था। अभी मैं फर्स्ट टाइम आप लोगों से जुड़ा हूँ।
आप टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में हैं कि नहीं है? टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में?
जी, मैं टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में जुड़ा हुआ हूँ। मुझे
तो वहां पे आप वहां पे आप उसको चेक क्यों नहीं करते? हमने तो वहां पे दिन में 2 बार आज मैसेज डाला था कि आज हम आइडेंटिटी के ऊपर बात करेंगे, और आने के पहले कृपया इन सवालों के जवाब सोच के आइए।
क्या है कि अकाउंट्स जीएसटी का काम है। एक कंपनी में मैं अकाउंट्स की वर्किंग करता हूँ, अकाउंट्स की।
अच्छा, ठीक है, अपना सवाल पूछिए सवाल।
टाइमिंग का इशू रहता है मुझे।
आपका सवाल क्या है?
जी सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि बचपन में मेरी एक हैबिट थी कि मैं छोटी छोटी चीजों को लेकर घबरा जाता था। कुछ जैसे कोई नया व्यक्ति आ गया, कोई बड़ा व्यक्ति आ गया।
हाँ, और हाँ, पूछिए हितेश, पूछिए। अच्छा, हितेश का लगता है कि डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया ऑडियो। सो दीपिका का सवाल लेते हैं। दीपिका ने पूछा था एंड्योरेंस के बारे में। दीपिका अपना सवाल पूछेंगी फिर से एक बार? व्हाट इज इट अबाउट एंड्योरेंस यू वांट टू नो? दीपिका, दीपिका आप सुन पा रही हैं?
यस सर।
हाँ बोलिए।
सर, आपने एंड्योरेंस के बारे में बताया है कि मतलब कि जो हमारी परमानेंट आइडेंटिटी है, वो कभी बदलती नहीं है।
नहीं, मैंने ऐसा नहीं कहा।
मतलब
नो नो नो, आई डिड नॉट
हाँ
से
जी
दिस।
सर।
ना ना, मैंने कहा था कि it endures over a long period of time, but it is not permanent. ठीक है, तो मतलब बदलती तो है, लेकिन 6 महीने में नहीं बदल जाती, 2 दिन में नहीं बदल जाती, सालों में बदलती, सालों तक रहती है। तो इट्स ए एंड्योरिंग सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ, एंड्योरिंग बट नॉट ए परमानेंट सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ। और डॉक्टर अमित ने ये बोला था कि इसको अगर हमारा हकलाना हमारी आइडेंटिटी का हिस्सा अगर बन गया है, तो उसको बदलने के लिए हम जो कुछ भी कर रहे हैं उसको भी एक लंबी प्रक्रिया होना पड़ेगा। यानी बाउंसिंग, एक्सेप्टेंस, जो कुछ भी हम कर रहे हैं वो 2 दिन करने से फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, वो हमें एक लंबे समय तक उसको कंसिस्टेंटली लंबे समय तक करना पड़ेगा, ये मतलब था। सो आइडेंटिटी इज नॉट परमानेंट। अगर परमानेंट होती तो हम इसे कोई बदल नहीं पाते। तो इट इज नॉट परमानेंट, बट it does change over a long period of time. So it endures for a long period of time, but it changes. तो अगर आप खुद भी याद करो कि बचपन में आपको क्या पसंद था, क्या नापसंद था, आपके क्या डर थे, क्या इच्छाएं थी, फिर आप उसे कंपेयर करो कि उसके बाद जब आप कॉलेज में पढ़ रही थी तब क्या इच्छाएं थी, तब आपको अपने किस बात पे, किस गुण पे गर्व था, आपकी निगाह में आपकी पहचान क्या थी। कुछ बच्चे कहते हैं ना कि आई कैन डू दिस बट आई विल नेवर डू दिस, बिकॉज दैट इज देयर आइडेंटिटी। ठीक है, कुछ बच्चे कहते हैं कि आई मे ड्रिंक एंड स्मोक बट आई विल नेवर हाइड इट। व्हाई शुड आई हाइड इट? सो बीइंग ट्रांसपेरेंट और बीइंग ऑथेंटिक इज देयर आइडेंटिटी। तो ये था उसका मतलब। अच्छा, एनी मोर क्वेश्चंस बिफोर वी बाइंड अप, बिकॉज इट्स गेटिंग लेट, इट्स ऑलमोस्ट 9 PM। और हितेश, आपका सवाल आप जरूर पूछिएगा, लेकिन आप टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में अपना सवाल डाल दीजिए, हम लोग वहां जवाब दे देंगे आपको। And you can ask your question as a audio also, as a audio note in Telegram. So let me thank everyone, and thanks everyone, and thank you so much Dr. Amit. आपने बहुत मूल्यवान समय दिया, और आपके आने से सचमुच बातचीत हमारी बहुत फर्क हो जाती है। We touch a different level of communication and discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dhruv. Thank you, Abhinav. Abhinav, do you want to say something? Some concluding thoughts from Germany? Oh, okay. Abhinav is busy. So thanks, everyone. So let me wind up. So once again, thank you, everyone. And let us keep on working on our identity through consistent, steady actions.